Thank you so much for being with us today. We are Wilson Educational Consulting LLC, and we are collaborating with Sisters Journeying Together for this International Day of the Girl Child. And so I just want to thank you once again for being with us to have this conversation. It is an important one. And the reason that it is important is because all of us, I believe, have a purpose. And so today we're going to focus our conversation on how your purpose has influenced the path that you've taken and how you serve others. And so this day is spent encouraging young girls to develop healthy self-esteem, as well as just to raise awareness about issues that impact young girls and young women. And so with that, I'm going to introduce you, and then I'm going to let you introduce yourselves and share a little bit about the work that you do. And then we're going to dive into our conversation. So I'm going to start by introducing Terri Brinston, who I've known for, it's hard to believe, but now it's more than 15 years. We've known one another for more than 15 years, but this is a little bit about her. So Terri Brinston struggled with a learning disability and was a special education student throughout grade school. However, after graduating from high school, she embraced that everything she needed was already inside her. Through God's grace and hard work, Terri became an RN, teacher, international motivational speaker, life coach, consultant, and author who thrives on helping people achieve their goals in life. Terri holds a Master of Arts in Education, Administration, and Community Leadership, and a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. She is a registered nurse, holds a legal nurse consultant certification, and is certified as an American Heart instructor among her professional credentials. So I'm going to allow you to share a little bit about yourself that I haven't already shared, Terri, and then I'm going to move on to introducing Kimberly.
All right, great. Thank you so much for having me, Robin. I'm so just so humbled to be before you today with these amazing women and to speak to these young girls. I think you said everything other than I'm a mother, a Christian, a wife, and just love what I do by working with young people. So looking forward to this conversation. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Kimberly Willis is someone who I respect and I admire, and thank you so much, Kim, for being with us today. Kim is a fighter, a true warrior with style to match. Being a breast cancer survivor and thriver, I would add, she is motivated to help bridge the gap between feeling subconscious to being confident in fashion, and she's very stylish, and you're going to find out why in a moment. She has successfully operated a fashion boutique, 49 rows, for both men and women. The boutique has opened her heart and passion to include styling cancer survivors. Kimberly has birthed another business called Survivor's Corner, a go-to place for cancer survivors that focuses on styling, survivor wear, and support group resources. So without further ado, Kim, I'm going to let you share a little bit more about yourself. You have a lot of amazing things that you do. So can you share a little bit with our listeners what it is that you do and why you're passionate about your work?
Yes, thanks again, Robin, for having me. And I have the same sentiments as Terri. I'm excited to be amongst all of these amazing women and to be invited for this special cause. Just like you just mentioned in the bio, I am a wellness advocate. And by that, I do it in several different ways. I do it through fashion. I know what it's like to feel subconscious in how your appearance is, being a breast cancer survivor, hence the pink today, because it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Right.
But I just really wanted to help those, even if you're not in the cancer community, to really feel just more confident about yourself and how your appearance is. But then I don't stop there. I help those voice their their journey through their cancer journey through my podcast as well, get into it, and just various other things. I'm a Christian as well. I'm a first lady. So I help in ministry. I help with fashion. I help the cancer community. So I just really love helping all of my sisters.
All right. Thank you so much, Kim, for sharing. And Kim is fashionable, like she always has, something beautiful on. And thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for your commitment to helping others. And the next person that I'm going to introduce, who's a part of our panel discussion, is also someone who I've known for years, because we actually have known one another since elementary school. And Angela Powell, as she is now, who was Angela Adams when we first met, but Angela Powell is an amazing woman, and I'm going to introduce her and let her share a little bit more about herself with you. But Angela Powell is an alumni of Michigan State University, earning a Bachelor of Science degree in zoology in 2006, along with a Master of Science degree in comparative medicine and integrative biology in 2012. With over 13 years of experience in the pharmaceutical manufacturing industry, Angela currently works as a microbiologist for Par Pharmaceuticals in Rochester, Michigan. As the lead trainer within the microbiology department, Angela works to improve training processes and introduce innovative methods into the department. She is passionate about the sciences and actively encourages young students to explore opportunities in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics careers. So thank you so much, Angie, for being with us. And can you share just a little bit about yourself before we dive into our conversation?
Absolutely. As the other ladies have already stated, it is an honor to be invited to be on this panel here today. I've been passionate about, I would say, math and sciences have always been my strong suits, from elementary school all the way up through grad school. And so that's something that I've always been passionate about, and really making sure that others understand that. And so that kind of goes into my training role within my department as well. Mentoring students who are coming up, who are interested in those science careers is really something that I'm super passionate about also. And so I am, as others have mentioned as well, I am also a mother, also a wife, also a Christian. I would not be here without the grace of God. And so, those are just some of the basics that are going on. But thank you once again for allowing me to sit in on this panel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, the purpose of our conversation is really to help young girls and young women to understand why it is important to have a strong sense of self. So that's tied to our self-esteem too. But why it's important to have a strong sense of self and our purpose in life as it relates to the things that we pursue in terms of our career and how we serve others. So I wanted to start off our conversation by giving you an opportunity to share with our listeners, how did you develop a strong sense of self from a early age? Who helped mold and shape your sense of identity as you were growing up?
I could pop on first. For myself, my mother and all of my aunties really laid out the foundation for what it's like to be a woman and to how to operate and to love on others. Obviously, the community around me too. So the community has an influence just like those at home. So at home, you got the personal influence, but when you go out, you also need a community of women that's going to kind of show you the ropes with those. So for me, those is both of those.
Both of those. And then I know, Kim, you also had a really strong relationship with your mother too. So I know that was a huge influence for you. And Angie, I know that you also have a really good relationship with your mom. What would you say helped to inform your sense of self when you were growing up?
Absolutely. I would say one of the things definitely, and it's something that I've tried to instill into my children as well. My parents growing up, they always made sure that my sister and I were always involved in some sort of extracurricular activity. So whatever we were interested in, they encouraged us to pursue that and to stick with that. And so that's one of the things. I was exposed to a lot of different things, and that really helped me to understand, like, these are the things that I like, these are the things that I don't like. And they gave us that space to kind of fail if we needed to, and to succeed in other areas, wherever the case may be. My parents were really there to allow us to discover those things about ourselves. And I think that's something that was really vital in, really figuring out that, who I am, what I like, what are the things that I'm passionate about. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know that Angie, and you can speak to this a little later too. I know that your parents, one of the programs that they had you involved in was DAPSEP. And so, in terms of your career path that you've taken in the sciences, do you believe that that really fostered your love of science?
Oh, absolutely. And for those who aren't familiar with the DAPSEP program, it stands for Detroit Area Pre-College Engineering Program. And so my parents, they knew that I was really good in math, I was really good in sciences. And so during the summers and on the weekends, I was involved in DAPSEP, which is just different programs that brought kids together who were also interested in these things, and really seeing other kids, because I tended growing up to be kind of an anomaly in my classes, but getting to be around other kids who were interested in the same thing, that really fostered that love of the sciences as well. Like, oh, this is something that is really cool, and other people are interested in this stuff just like me. So definitely finding programs like that, like DAPSEP is an awesome organization, but that definitely helped out a lot too.
And Terri Brinston, you pursued a science related field as well with nursing. And so can you share with us how did your identity take shape when you were younger, and how did you come to see yourself as being a nurse or a caregiver?
Thank you so much. As pretty much the same as these young ladies, my family definitely played a very important role at molding me. I was going to say, Angela, my son went through the DAPSEP program as well. He's an electrical engineer now. And so absolutely being involved in extracurricular activity and those things. But I do want to add that also, I, as you guys were talking, I think that my strengths were birthed from my struggles. And so the things that I went through as a young girl, I struggled with being a special ed student. I struggled with a learning disability. I struggled with low self-esteem. Those were the things that I struggled with, which meant that I had to put a lot of energy in transforming those different self-limiting beliefs. And from that, I think that I birthed my purpose. So, I kind of, when you were talking, I was thinking about like a caterpillar and how, it turns into a butterfly, and just the struggle of them getting out of that shell. And I feel like that was really my story. I struggled so much with learning how to figure out where I fit in this world, trying to build my own self, getting my, of course, with my parents' help and things like that, but recognizing that I had so many struggles, and to overcome those struggles actually birthed my purpose. And so I didn't really talk about the fact that I'm a health occupation teacher. So I introduced students to the medical field and the sciences. And I think because I struggled so much as a student, not knowing who I was or what my purpose was in life, I try to help the young people that I serve to discover that, and to recognize that through their struggles, they can definitely birth their strengths. And so that was sort of, of course, having family members to recognize that they saw the strengths in me in my before I did, of course. So they allowed me to see the things that I was not seeing in myself. But I think it was that struggle through becoming who I am today, having to go through those obstacles, through those growing pains, actually really guided me in the direction the path that I actually ultimately took, to be an educator, to be a motivational speaker, to work with young people, to encourage them to be their best and do their best in their life. So.
And I really appreciate you sharing that, because you were a part of my puzzle piece, as I was coming into myself as a young person. And I think that we all need, and Kim, you said this too, it's not just the people who are in your home, but it's also the people that's in your community. So what you just shared, Terri Brinston, is exactly what you were speaking to earlier, Kim. And so I appreciate you sharing the struggles that you dealt with, because sometimes when we're talking about walking out our purpose, we often share, the things that we've been able to accomplish, which is wonderful, but there's often a struggle behind our stories. And so for Kim and for Angie, is there anything in particular that you would like to share with our listeners that maybe perhaps you struggled with as you were trying to come into yourself and figure out what your purpose was?
I know for myself, being proud of who I am. I know sometimes growing up as a dark-skinned African-American, sometimes there is different stigmas that's attached with that. And even just being a woman, a girl, you have to fight harder than others at times. So my mother really taught me about perseverance. She was a hard worker. She grew up poor. So she taught me the value of life, and she taught me how to go for something. Despite whatever adversity that you may have. I remember being in high school when I was playing the flute and piccolo, and I had to constantly prove myself each and every time to be first chair, or if I was doing different competitions, I had to keep doing that. And that has really translated into what I do today, because even with fighting with cancer, I had to continue to persevere, to continue to fight for my life, to continue to fight for my sanity. And even with my parents, because when I had cancer, both of my parents also had cancer and passed away during my active treatment. So the perseverance of really trying to keep my mind, to keep my spirits up, and to continue to operate in my purpose is something that I learned as a young girl to really translate into the woman that I'm in today.
Yeah. And would you say, Kim, even though I know you and we've talked before, but would you say that your struggle with overcoming cancer and also losing your parents to cancer really fueled your passion for the current work that you do?
Oh, absolutely. It's funny. When I was 18 years old in our senior book, I said that I want to encourage and motivate people. It's always been ingrained in me. However, someone says life be lifing. So life happened. I had kids, I got married, and I was a branch manager at a credit union. Yes, I was still kind of operating. I was encouraging my team and things, but it wasn't until I had cancer that put me back into what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's really what birthed really Survivor's Corner and really 49 Roles, because now I'm doing what I'm supposed to. I'm encouraging them, and it all intermingles with each other. So if it's at church, or if it's in any of the businesses, or doing platforms like this, I'm now realigned with my purpose because of the adversities that I went through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Angie, and thank you for sharing that, Kim. And now I'm going to go to Angie, because, Angie, I can speak from a different perspective, because I've known you since we were younger. And, growing up, I just remember always really admiring how focused you were. And so I know that we've talked about a lot of things, but I don't think that we've ever talked about like any challenges that you felt that you had growing up. So can you share, what are some things that you may have dealt with internally that you other people would not have known, as you were coming into yourself?
Sure. And I will go ahead and piggyback off of what Kim was saying about growing up as a dark-skinned little girl. So a lot of the times at the schools we went to, and then as I progressed up through middle school and high school, and we got to pick AP classes and things like that, a lot of times I'm one of two or three, or possibly even the only, not just Black girl, but Black kid, period, in the classroom.
Mhm.
As well as, growing up and being picked on because of skin color and things like that. And so those are some of the things like self-esteem wise that I had to deal with just coming up and like looking around, not really seeing a lot of people who look like me, if any, especially when I got to college. I mean, oh. And so I think that just that challenge in and of itself, that's one of the things I definitely internalized it. I didn't really talk about it because again, I didn't really talk to my mom about this until I became an adult. And she's like, well, I had no idea that, you were dealing with this internally and things like that. And, we talked about her experience. She said, my experience is a little different growing up. So it was kind of one of those things where I oftentimes felt alone and felt like I didn't really have anybody to relate to. And I think I kind of like really turned my focus into my academics, like, well, I feel alone here, but I'm just gonna, focus on my studies. I'm gonna focus on getting these good grades. I'm gonna focus at excelling and everything else so that, people will notice me, people will like me, kind of like a misplaced, instead of dealing with those issues, kind of like misplacing them and turning it into something else. And so it served me well academically, but there were issues that kind of like followed me into adulthood that I had to really go back and say like, okay, let's deal with this now. I am enough as is, without the degrees, without the title, I am enough like me, just being me. I don't need anything else that comes along with it to justify that I'm worth love or that I am, or that, yeah, just worthy of love or worthy of being liked or things like that. So that's definitely something I dealt with in my childhood all the way to adulthood. And, even sometimes, even now, those feelings still try to creep in.
Mhm.
That's why I said like, by the grace of God, because when we really start to learn who we are, I don't want to turn this into a sermon, but we
You're
really
fine.
start to learn
That's
how
right.
we are in Christ, and who God created us to be. That helps to, deal with a lot of those feelings that I was dealing with growing up as well. So,
Absolutely. And that really is insightful because I was going to ask you what was that turning point for you, but you shared that it was really like solidifying your identity in Christ, who you are in Christ. That really sounds like that was the turning point for you. And thank you for sharing that and being so transparent because I think that we all have different experiences that we go through growing up. I really appreciate both you and Kimberly sharing that because I know that there's probably some young girl, who's listening to what you just shared, and what you just shared helps them to know that they're not alone. And Kim, I wanted to ask you, what was your turning point when it came to getting over some of the issues that arose, like from maybe perhaps the way that you were treated by others? How did you get over that?
Realizing that I was beautifully and uniquely made, knowing that I was made in God's image, knowing that I am enough, as Angie was saying earlier, and just having that reinforcement through others, through the women in my life, to let me know that I am beautiful. And some of the work that I do with styling, some with losing your breast and things like that, some women feel like it's a loss of identity, and they're learning how to re-love themselves because of what society deems as beautiful. And really, I think the turning point is really just going back to loving the inner self and really learning how to make you come alive again. So irregardless if you have hair or not, there's different ways to style yourself to still make you shine. And those are some of the things that I think that is the turning point. I know for me, having faith in God has really been my soundboard in a lot of things, because I really had to look at myself and say, I'm beautiful with or without hair. I'm beautiful with or without breasts. I'm beautiful no matter what my skin color is. I don't have to alter it. And just really being satisfied with that. And we live in a society right now where plastic surgery is the normal. And there's nothing wrong with that, because obviously if that's what you want to do, that's okay. However, you need to know why you're doing those particular things. Are you doing it to satisfy someone else's aesthetic a beauty of what you think that is, or are you truly doing it for yourself to enhance, to make you look and feel good? Because some people get plastic surgery and it's just putting a Band-Aid over the issue, and they're really not looking at the root issue. So it's really important for me, I think, to have a strong faith system, because that is going to help you through those moments of adversity, those insecure, or even if you're feeling less confident in something, and then having that support group around you to really rally you and just to let you know that also you are enough as well.
That's good. That's really good. Thank you for sharing that, Kim. And Terri Brinston, I want you to share, because I know that we've actually had some conversations around this too. And I know that if you're comfortable with sharing, some of the insecurities that you felt, with your appearance growing up, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, ladies, for sharing your stories as well. I think as being a fair-skinned young African-American woman, I was never dark enough and never light enough. And so I think we, as our culture is so diverse and so beautiful, just being able to embrace the differences of everybody, of yourself, regardless where you are. I kind of connect that with the term of barriers. And so some of the things that I do when I work with young people, I help them to understand that everybody has barriers that prevent them from doing something. If it's, barriers from you going into education, from you being a little bit more outward in your expression, because everybody want to look good and avoid looking bad. Everybody is in that space. And so sometimes when we have those barriers of low self-esteem or low self-image, or, certain things that we feel that we are not, good enough, it prevents us, it stops us, it stops you from really walking out your purpose. And so with the programs that I provide for young people, I help them to identify, well, what is the barrier is going to prevent you from reaching where you're trying to go? And before you can realize the barrier, you have to figure out where you want to go. And I think by me working with young people and saying, okay, if there was no obstacles in your life, if there were no issues, no mental, no emotional, no physical, no financial, issues at all, nothing that's to stop you, where do you want to go in life? And I think that once we get connected to where we want to go, then you will start to make arrangements and different decisions so that you can overcome the barriers that is going to prevent you from getting to your full intention. And so what I do is I help young people to first figure out, what do they want out of life? I help them to dream again. And I think that I had to start there, because that's what it was for me. I envision, because my story, and I don't know how much time we have, but I was able to see myself in a different light as a nurse. And as I felt what a nurse looked like: respected, beautiful, smart. And so I saw that for myself before I became that. And so once I could see that vision for myself, my intention for my life, then I started to recognize all of the obstacles that was preventing me. And it was all self. It was me feeling this and me feeling that. And it was really not an obstacle. So it was more of a mental obstacle. And so with that, I was able to really overcome. Once I realized where I wanted to go, I started to be very intentional about changing those self-limiting beliefs, those obstacles that was preventing me from getting to where I wanted to go in life. And so I would, that's what I help young people do, to identify their intention. And then once they know their intention, we help them to connect with resources to help them to overcome those obstacles. So if it's counseling, if it's mentoring, if it's tutoring, if it's self-worth programs like Miss Kimberly is providing, or talking with someone who's gone through what you have gone through, Angela, or working with companies like yours, Robin, that's what I connect them with. So but the hard part, the heavy lifting, is to have them to dream again.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share before I ask my final question?
Yeah, I just wanted to just kind of stress, we're speaking to young women, young girls, just the importance of dreaming. And I think it really starts there when you start to dream about the possibilities for your life. And really just, I think about, the cell phone and automobiles and, all of the advancements in our society. It started with a dream. And I think that when we stop dreaming and we stop thinking about our intentions for our life, then there's no birth for new life, there's no birth for our purpose. And so I think that that's where you need to start. Just allow yourself to, without any restraints, without any judgment, without any thoughts of being criticized, just do not stop dreaming. And that's where you start. And then once you start dreaming, then you will see the possibility of your future. So I'll end with that.
I think that is amazing advice. And do you have any advice for young girls, Kim, that you can share in terms of how to be bold in living out their purpose?
Yes. To live bold is to know that it's within your reach. Going back what Terri was saying, that listen, dream, but then once you have the dream, write it down and make it plain. Organize it, start having goals on how you're going to achieve those things, because it is within your reach. Sometimes we think about the end goal and get overwhelmed with that and don't know how to get there. So we shut down, or one mistake or failure and we shut down. But that mistake or that failure is actually taking you one more step towards your goal. Even if you get a closed door, guess what? That's not your door. You have another door to get ready to go into. So making sure that you are encouraging yourself throughout the process, and really know that it's within your reach, because history has taught us that there's multiple women, there's multiple girls who has made something out of nothing. And just that alone should give you the encouragement to know that you have the tools to do it.
That is awesome advice. Thank you so much, Kim. And Angie, do you have any advice for young girls or young women who are looking to live out their purpose?
Absolutely. These wonderful ladies are taking all the good answers, but I definitely agree with everything that has already been said. One of the things I think that I'll hone in on is living in this age of social media. Don't be concerned about what people are saying, what somebody thinks, what others' opinions of you are, because everybody's always going to have something to say. Even the people who are doing the greatest things on earth, somebody's going to comment and say, oh, it don't take all of that. Oh, she didn't have to do it this way. So there's always going to be somebody who has a negative opinion. Don't focus on that. Just do, if there's something that you want to do, go for it. And I think that, as has already been mentioned, you're never going to know what you're capable of doing until you actually try. And so this whole life is about, figuring things out, learning and growing. And once we get to that level, guess what? There's going to be another level that we're called to move into. And so we're constantly going to be learning. We're constantly going to be growing. And so don't be afraid to make mistakes. And again, don't be discouraged by all of the naysayers and the people who think that you're doing it wrong. You just focus on what it is that you desire to do and put all of your effort into that, and just watch the outcome from there. And so that's what I'll say. Just, if you can, just get off of social media sometimes, but but don't let that dictate your life.
Yes, I agree, Ange. And the last question that I have as we wrap up our conversation is, I know all of you to be amazing women of service. You serve others through the work that you do, and that's why I invited you into this conversation today. So as we close out our conversation on knowing your purpose and living out your purpose, what would you say has contributed to you being able to serve in the way that you serve others as it relates to your purpose? How do you feel knowing your purpose and having a strong sense of self has informed the way that you serve others?
For myself, I would say being vulnerable.
Mhm.
A lot of my work is also sharing my testimony about what I went through, and all of it's not pretty. Sometimes when you're open and transparent about different things, it invites all types of opinions, people who think they know what it's like to walk in your shoes or has advice for this and has advice for that. But I know the greater purpose of it, which continues to motivate me to go on. I hear the comments of, you know what? Thank you for sharing that, because if I ever get cancer, I'm strong enough now to go through chemo because I saw you do that. Just comments like that allows me to continue to move forward. So yeah, that's what I would say.
And I also wanted to let our listeners know that you are an author as well, and that your journal, your new book is Surviving the Cancer Journey. So that's
Yes.
actually one way that you help others, is by sharing your voice, not only through your words like you're doing today, but you also share your voice in your writing. So thank you so much for that, Kim.
Thank you.
Thank you. Terri or Angie?
Okay, well, I would say in terms of service to others, one of the things that I guess really encourages me to want to serve others is just thinking back on the challenges and things that I dealt with growing up, and not wanting others to struggle through that. If I can give them the tools and the resources, and the information they need to overcome that a little quicker than I did, to put them a little ahead, a little faster than I was able to get to that point. And so really just looking and seeing that, hey, I see where you are. Hey, I could identify with you. I see the path that you're heading down. Like, here are some additional tools that can help you get there a little faster. And so that's one of the things in terms of service for me, is just wanting people to not go through the same things that I went through. If they can learn from my mistakes, then I'm all for that, because I'm not trying to be in this space by myself. I want to bring as many with me as I can. And so that's my driving force behind just really wanting to be a service towards others.
Is that there's space for others at the table, is what I hear you saying. Yes, I agree. Thank you so much, Ange. And Mrs. Brinston, did you have something that you would like to add as we close out?
Yeah, absolutely. Just real quick, I think I definitely agree with both of our guests. I would like to add that through serving, I discovered my purpose. I originally, just through my church, and I say that because I was really active in my church, as working as a Sunday school teacher, working as a youth worker, working as just any and every opportunity. I think my church gave me an opportunity to explore options. And it was through me exploring options through service that I discovered my purpose. I used to say all the time, oh, I don't want to work with kids. Oh my gosh, there's no way. They're too smart mouth. There's no way I want to work with kids. And here I am as a teacher and a pediatric nurse, and my entire life is centered around working with young people. But I would have never known that if I never served. And so I would just like to just encourage our young people to, be bold, put yourself out there. You don't know what it is that, what is for you until you start doing. You're not going to just sit at home, go home from school every day, wake up and say, oh, what is my purpose? Well, you have to explore, you have to, put yourself out there. So when there's opportunities to volunteer, take them. And when there's opportunities to do things in your school, be on committees and work with different people, make sure that you be intentional about putting yourself out there. It doesn't mean like you have to do it, because you may discover you don't like it, and that's fine. But you will never discover your purpose or your passion for serving until you do it. And so that's what I would encourage you to just be active, and just sign up. You just even if you're fearful, do it scared, right? Do it scared.
And I also want to thank you, not for just sharing your voice and your message through your speaking, but you are also an author. And Journey Surviving COVID-19, we are still in the pandemic, and I know that our scholars, I say scholars, our young scholars have returned, many of them, to the classroom, but you know from personal experience, not only working with young people, but also having gone through this COVID-19 experience yourself, that there's been a lot that we've dealt with in these last few years. And there's still a lot that we have to overcome in the future. But I know that what you've shared, all of you have shared today, is definitely going to inspire young people who are listening to this message, and young women even. And so I just want to say thank you once again for joining this conversation today. And we're grateful for you.
Thank you.
Ladies.